Time for a bit of a history lesson. So, in the earliest incarnation of this channel that I can remember, it was initially called Past and Present Comms, which was loosely based off of Brain Scratch Comms, or even in its earliest form, it was going to be called Chozo Starbits, if you want to get real technical. Then at the beginning, it was Matt the Chozo, and then now we're at Matt, who is me, who is the host of the channel called Matt Cross. Not to be confused with the professional wrestler of the actual name Matt Cross, or not even to be confused with the vintage mecha anime Macross, which is very loosely based on my actual life. If you know my videos, you know that I talk about a lot of games, a lot of action games, a lot of rhythm games, basically any kind of weird thing that came my way. And honestly, it wouldn't have been all possible if I didn't have an outlet to really get that kind of thing out there. And that's why, alongside that, I was a huge fan of making videos. I remember one of the earliest projects that we got for grade 9 science class. They wanted us to do a presentation for the stars or the galaxy or the planets, anything space related. Normally people would do the usual Bristol board presentation or PowerPoint. I found that stuff really boring, so I did something to make it a bit more fun. I basically made a movie trailer about the planets and the stars using nothing but Google image JPEGs. And from there, the rest was history. And that's really the gist of what you gotta know about my history when it comes to actually making videos as a hobby. Whether it was for actually finding loopholes for pretty mundane and tedious projects, whether it was after school or during school, or whenever I had any free time, I would just sit down and record whatever kind of video idea I had in my mind. And this is what this series is really going to celebrate. We're going to be revisiting, kind of give a behind the scenes commentary on some of the projects that I happen to salvage. Keep in mind, these are going to be revisits more of videos that I've done personally, and less of content that you'd find on the actual main channel, though I do plan to look back at my previous reviews and Let's Plays at a different time. And I'm not necessarily looking to be embarrassed or cringe at anything I've done in the past by doing this kind of revisiting thing. Like, I totally get that people don't like looking at their previous or older stuff. Like, I totally get that mentality. But from the way I see it, from the amount of experience that I've had making videos since the very beginning, I've come to know that despite the outcome of any kind of project, whether it be good or bad or indifferent, each production has a story to tell. And I thought it'd be nice to just look back, have a bit of a nostalgic review of all the memories that I just so happen to have with making most of these cute little personal projects. So let's go ahead and look back at some of these videos, guys. I mean, it's great. It's one of the great things about making videos just purely for entertainment, is that you don't have to consider each of them to be a serious project or a stunning professional masterpiece that you can hang next to the Mona Lisa. They're just more like a catalog of crap that you can look back on like a home video. I decided to look at this one first, a short video I made for video class. This wasn't one of the first videos I ever made, but it's one of the more recent ones that had a lot of thought put into it. It's called Megalomania, period. And yeah, Undertale was a huge influence on the story.
And I've asked it for the last 2 years. Do you think even the worst person can change no matter what the circumstance?
It follows some moody, angsty kid on his way back home. He's come back from school only to have two hooded individuals follow him around and confront him at every given opportunity, though never at the same place at the same time. There's a certain dynamic between these two characters. One of them is a lot more expressive and satirical about his remarks towards the main guy, while the other is more down to earth and personal about confronting his problems.
Skipping, my boy. Chilling with the cool kids, getting to know that pretty lady friend of yours, huh? Or putting that substance in your mouth.
They make references to his character, like his excessive alcohol usage, his rebellious nature towards school, and just in general being a frustrated individual who comes home and lames it out like it's nothing.
I mean, you're always moping and giving me that creepy look, but you know, it's like you don't care.
With the main guy, I made it pretty clear that he's someone who has issues. I structured it so that his interactions with the two figures are acting like a day in his regular life, when in reality, every day is seemingly like this.
I know you do. I mean, what else can I say? You skip classes, you pick fights with insignificant people, you accuse everyone else of making your life an absolute garbage dump.
I made it ambiguous towards who exactly these two were. Are they ghosts or spirits who've come to haunt him in a second life? Are they just a figment of his imagination? Why is always one seen in shadows while the other is fine in broad daylight? And again, never at the same time. Speculation was always something I liked seeing people do, even if I didn't have a direct answer towards everything that I made a thing for. As I've said before, the Undertale influence is pretty abundant in this one. Not even just the title or the background music, but even the sound effects. The overall melancholic tone was something I derived from Undertale's innocence on the surface, but grim and often philosophical tones on the inside, though it's pretty obvious from the general video that I went for a darker approach rather than covering up that his life is pretty ordinary. This was also the perfect occasion to film at that time because this happened to be filmed during one of the strongest and coldest winter storms of the season. Even filming the parts outside was a challenge because of how cold the atmosphere was and how loud the wind was becoming. My mic was starting to pick it up at times. Thank goodness Max has the ability to adaptively raise his voice at any opportunity.
Hey, you look like you could use some cheering up. Maybe like a coffee or an espresso, maybe even a soda. Well, sodas kind of make you a little bit bloaty, especially after a day like yours.
From my point of view, I had a great time filming this with everybody, even if it was for a regulated project. Max made for a good, wisecracking, but self-conscious figure, while Romulo pulled off the low-key, personal one-on-one intuition with the main character really well. It was a good contrast. One would be joking about how pathetic the main character's life was, while the other would focus more consciously about what exactly his actions are for, though sometimes they even switch personality roles just to mess you up enough to make you think they're one and the same. Patrick, while not having many lines, was great as someone being intentionally angsty, but also a bit imposing towards the confrontations between these two guys. I think the close-ups in his face, as embarrassing as they may have been to witness for him, proved to be some of the more effective shots towards his character. The last moments where he just falls apart on himself are excellent and funny at the same time. So there we have it. A dark, kind of grim, shot in shadow sort of video that really contrasts with a lot of the sillier, lighter, whiter stuff that I usually make. And it was loosely based around one of my favorite games at the time. It's kind of amazing that projects like that just sort of happen. And that's what we're going to be looking at for the rest of this series. We're going to look at more lighthearted stuff that I've ended up making. This is one of the more serious things that I've kind of made to make the audience think, leave it a bit ambiguous. But then again, I had to do it at some point.